Is there anybody not present?
Yes. Yeah.
That's great. You're getting negation joke. That's progress.
So you're coming next week? See the empty room?
Direct reception of empty room.
Yeah, I've had that one before. Logic's really a tough sell, you know. But I don't care because I think it's important.
Clear thinking, though. That's a good.
Yeah, I meant to say that at the beginning of the class yesterday, because Mercedes mentioned it. Me and Geshe Michael came up with this scheme to start calling it logic and call it clear thinking, because I had somebody actually I taught a class on clear thinking, and afterwards they told me if I had said it was a logic class, they admitted they wouldn't have come. So we teach clear thinking. And then in that vein, I thought actually I'd start off with some more syllogisms and kind of again we'll sort of review and test and think, and because again that was a little bit highbrow, that last one. You know, maybe your goal yet isn't to save every living being from pain. Maybe that's a little bit out of your realm of possibility. So we can talk about more mundane benefits, which we talked about yesterday, which is like just keeping yourself out of trouble in general. So here's one that my brother helped me figure out. So I thought I'd,
Thanks.
yeah. So I thought I'd start with this one because this one was helpful to my brother. So we say, consider your kids. Or it could be your partner, your boss, your grandma, doesn't matter. Consider your kids.
Hey, Ningpo,
Yeah.
read those. Can you just use the black dry erase marker?
You can't see it? It's too thin.
It's not as good as the black one.
Not as good as the black.
The dry erase marker.
I don't know at all.
What about the one that's on the board?
Use the wet rag to send it.
Is that the new one I just got?
I left you with that for, here, take it all.
It's okay.
Try the test.
It's good we found that out. Okay. Consider your kids, partner, boss, etc., etc., etc. They will do what you want because you yell at them. True or false?
Let's apply to
On the three tests.
Let's apply the 3 tests. Yay! All right, what's test number 1?
Just 3.1.
Yeah.
Consider kids.
That's the reason. So what's that here? Yeah.
Yell at them.
You can definitely yell at your kids.
Yeah. So there's definitely a relationship. That one. Try this one. Them. Again, easy. Refers to kids. So there's a relationship. So if you've ever yelled at them or thought about yelling at them, then this is true, and we're all good. What's test number 2?
2.3.
Yeah. So if 3 is true, no, if 2 is true, 3 must be true. No, if 3 is true, 2 must be true. So if you yell at them, must it be true that they will do what you want? No.
Then you have to yell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true, right? So again, just to apply this to our life, when you feel like yelling, write out the syllogism. You know, what is it you want to get by yelling? I want them to do what I want, right? Will it work? Not necessarily. And then again, it could be kids or, you know, boss, partner, any of those kind of things. Let's do another one.
Can you fix that?
That's what I was thinking about, but I don't want to do that yet. Remind me later, we'll come back to it. Let's do another one. This one? What was this one? Thought this one would be fun. Consider my partner, male or female, they will make me rich because they are a lawyer. True or false? That's right. Good test. Good. Okay. What's test number 1?
Partner's a lawyer, yes.
Yeah, partner's a lawyer. So if they refers back to partner. So if your partner is a lawyer, passes test number 1. Then what's test number 2?
Lawyer will make you rich.
They're a lawyer. They'll make you rich. Is that true? Yeah. So what would be a counterexample?
Human rights lawyer.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, my friend, I have this friend that I used to work in desktop publishing with, and he went to school to become a lawyer, and his wife got all excited. And then he became a human rights lawyer. He works for the UN now. He doesn't make any money. They're divorced. It's not a cause and effect relationship, but anyway, that's what made me think of this one. Or, God forbid, they turn their lawyer skills on you. They're going to make you the opposite of rich. I'm sure, anyway, blah, blah. Okay, so, false. Let's do one more. This is what I spent my break doing. This is the one that let's do this one, because this one's really important. Consider me. But again, right, we think that way. I mean, I'm making a joke out of it, right? But no, you look for your partner, you look for somebody who's going to help you financially, that we do that, right? We do look for a partner who we think can contribute to the finances, and we think, oh, if this partner has a job and they work, and they're going to help me, And then what happens if that doesn't happen? They lose their job, or something happens to them, and they can't contribute financially. Then what happens to us? We get pissed off, right? You start fighting with them, right? But the logic was flawed from the beginning, right? So if we just thought about what we're doing, we could avoid some of these problems. Consider me, I will be happy. This is my favorite one. I will be happy because I do what I want. True or false? That's hard to do test. Okay, what's test number 1? Yeah, so me and I is the easy solution to that. I'm referring to myself in both, so there's a relationship. As long as I do what I want, which I do most of the time. So, pass test number 1. What's test number 2?
Because I do what I want, I will be happy.
Yeah. If I do what I want, is it necessarily the case that I will be happy? No. All right, give me a counterexample.
Reading too much.
Ooh, good, right? I'm gonna, I'm happy. I'm gonna sell it. I got promoted, or so I'm gonna celebrate. So let's go have drinks. I don't feel happy. Right? Good. What else?
You take the subway seat.
What's that?
Like you take the seat on the subway.
Oh.
Expensive
Right.
somebody else.
I'm tired. I want to sit down. Right. So you sit down, and then you watch some poor old lady who can't sit down now because you took the seat. Are you gonna feel happy? Not really.
Well, you have to change your state.
What's that?
I said you have to change your state in order to be happy. Then sit on the one that sit down.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want. Then. Exactly. It depends on
That's
what you
true,
want,
too.
so that it can.
What else?
Wait. So you didn't really explain that.
Eat. Right. Yeah. That's a good one. These are good. All right. We got drinks. We got food. Right. I'm gonna eat what I want. It's gonna make me happy. Tad knows I'm living with Tad. I'm having a terrible time. I got this stomach thing in Bulgaria, and I can't eat New York pizza because if I eat pizza, then I have terrible stomach pains. It's just killing me. I had to watch them eat pizza yesterday. It's terrible, right? It's terrible. Terrible. But it would have been worse to eat it. Right? If I went ahead and ate the pizza, then really terrible things happen.
Actually, that's an interesting thing. She just brought up a good point. She's like, something we haven't really disproved it because you don't want to feel badly, so you're still continuing doing what you want by not eating the pizza. I think it's more important to you to want.
No, but I want to eat pizza.
But I think the problem.
But you also want to feel good.
So,
Yeah, sure.
so you have wants that conflict each other.
Right, so if you have conflicting wants,
Yeah.
you choose which is more important, and then you're still doing what you want.
And then you're still gonna have problems. It's called who knows what a diamond deal is?
Because you weren't happy with it, didn't you?
Yeah, right. Somebody explain diamond deals.
giving yourself two false dichotomies, and like either way, whether you ate the pizza and weren't happy because your digestive issues are, you didn't eat the pizza and you weren't happy because you were watching everyone enjoy themselves and you were imagining this image of the pizza.
Yeah.
So either way, you weren't happy, so it couldn't be the true cause of the unhappiness or the happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it works in all directions. What else? What else do I do what I want and it doesn't really work out?
And make out with everybody.
Yeah, sure. Good for you. No, you know, sleep around, right? Our society is totally driven by sex, like every single ad that you see, right? Like, there's this one that I love when we drive from Camp Verde to I shouldn't tell this, it's okay. We drive from Camp Verde to Phoenix to go to the airport. There's this gas station we always stop at, and there's a big sign for the gas station, and it's this girl with giant boobs, like sticking her butt out. And what does it say? Do you remember? It says something like
Stop here.
stop here, eat here, or something like that. It's a total like double entendre, you know. She's like holding a pie and smiling at you, you know. So we can sell anything with that, right? So we're sort of unconsciously influence our entire lives to think that sex is what's going to make us happy, right? We just like sleep with the right people, sleep with enough people, sleep with whoever we want, right? Then we're going to be happy. Then how does that work out? You know, usually not so good. The one I was thinking, I thought of, you know, because I don't know who I am or whatever, I thought movies, you know, because that's also, I'm so obsessed with that right now. But, you know, I'm going to go see, actually, you know, I'm going to go see a movie, it's going to, you know, then you go see the movie and it sucks, you know, and it doesn't make you happy, right? So, anyway. Buying things, shopping, buying things. You know, my favorite thing that Bush, maybe the second favorite thing that Bush ever said was that whole thing about fight terrorism, buy stuff. Like you give that big speech, you know, don't let Saddam Hussein win, shop for Christmas. I just love that. It was so insane. I just like totally loved it. And that's actually one of my friends told me that, and it's in the answer key for my book. In my book, I put little questions, you know, to try to get people to think about some of this stuff. And one of the questions I put in my book was, what are the benefits of practicing, you know, thinking about things logically? And she said what she really liked about, well, there's a funny one I was telling Tad. I taught this class, I taught class at the Cathedral a couple years ago on logic, and I met this guy that was in the class later, and I was like, oh, how are you doing? And he's like, oh, really good. I'm like, oh, what's going on? He's like, well, I'm a lawyer. He's like, I'm going to law school in Florida. And I said, oh, cool. And he's like, yeah, thanks so much for that logic class. And I was like, why? He's like, because I can confuse anybody. He's like, I studied all this stuff, you know, and I learned how to debate things and everything, and now I just run circles around all the other lawyers.
Yeah, the LSAT right there.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that's such a great reason, but the one I put in the book was I asked, you know, I was just asking people like why, you know, what benefit did they get out of logic, if any, you know, and she said she sees through advertisements now. You know, when you see an advertisement, they're trying to sell you something. You know, sex makes you happy. You know, and so when she sees those advertisements, she's like, well, that's false. You know, that's not a reason to buy something. You know, so that was kind of cool. All right.
Nyingpo, could we do one of those karmic correlations? Like, you know, consider partner, I will find one if I take care of lonely people.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Because, I mean, it's like, we know that that's true, but
Yeah.
if we logic it out, it's
Yeah.
like,
That's not necessarily true.
It's okay. You can,
Test it.
let me see where I was. There was one complicated thing that I said I was going to do later and then I forgot, so I want to do that real fast. And then we'll move on to the next class is supposed to be causes and results, so that's why I started with this, and then yeah, we'll talk about all that stuff. So the complicated thing is if you were going to pick the biggest chi, the biggest quality, what would you pick? Includes everything.
All existing things.
All existing things. Yeah. Things, object, categories of existence, they include all existing objects. Okay. Then what would be a subset of that?
Working thing.
Yeah, working thing, changing thing, unchanging thing, any of those, right? So could this be a chi? Or I'm sorry, see, I messed it up. Could this be a Jedi? In other words, could you take this and put it here?
No.
Yes.
How?
Well, there's non-existing things. I'm thinking
Nah, you can't really do that one.
because as soon as you talk about them, they exist.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good. Good try though. Any other ideas? Obviously, you can't think of a bigger category, so you have to be sneaky.
Well, non-existing things would that relate? Those relationships wouldn't hold.
Yeah, you can't really use that one.
How about emptiness?
No, because that's a subset of.
Yeah, that would be a little circle. If this was still my big circle, emptiness would be a little circle. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of mention again, hopefully we'll get to it where I'll give you the secret code to read the readings and Geshe Michael's readings, because you can't read them because they're all written in code. But this, I learned this from going through those readings, because this is a debate. The debate is, so all existing things is a chi, but it can't be a cheda. And that's how the guy starts the debate. And then the answer is, no, that's not true. It can be a cheda. Of what? For example, things that need definitions. Right? Everything needs a definition. And all existing things is a thing that needs a definition. Are there other things that need definitions besides all existing things?
How can we even talk about them without like a meaning though?
Well, I'm trying to give you a hint, like the little codes around
Yeah, I
it.
guess non-existing
because
things.
you're,
need definition.
but I,
I'm being sneaky.
yeah, the close.
Then
Yeah.
they're nothing. All-
So yeah, so give me an example, something that's out here, right? Because if we want to achieve Jedi relationship, holy character, remember the third thing that has to be true is there must be other things other than this which exist in that set.
Other
So give me
existing things or other things?
other things,
There's something else.
something else.
Non-existent.
Yeah.
So non-existing things.
Does non-existing things have a definition? Probably not.
Non-existing things.
Not yet existing thing?
It's much easier than you're making it out to be.
Objects, that is the,
What needs a definition?
things that don't have a definition.
That's true. I'm not going to go for it, but no. Give me an example. Something that needs a definition.
Like
Well, that's true, but something other than that.
Mysteries, like example of something that needs a definition.
Anything.
But it's an
Anything.
existing thing.
Yeah. No. Anything needs a
I was
definition.
gonna say, but anything.
Yeah. Anything. Library. Book.
But doesn't
But
Cat,
it's the
they're
category of
all
existing
things.
Dog. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This category is things that need definitions. What needs a
Oh, so it's
definition?
just-
Everything needs a definition, including the category of things, all existing things.
But we
All
can't-
existing thing needs a definition.
where's
So
the
does cat,
subhead?
dog, book, basketball,
In the same-
hyena.
Do subcategories
Floor,
of the small
ceiling.
circles count at, I guess, is a subcategory of a subcategory considered a subcategory of the larger categories?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
This is just an example.
No, she's right.
But do you see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
So, like, if A is a subset of B and B is a subset of C, then A is a subset of C.
That's true, but that's totally off the subject.
But that's true.
That is true, but that's got nothing to do with this. Look, if I made a list of things that, if I made a list of things that need a definition, give me a list of things that need a definition. Car, what else?
Monkey.
Monkey, what else?
Baby.
Light blue, what else?
Music.
Music, what else?
Pizza.
Pizza, what else?
No.
Nyingpo, what else?
Everything.
All existing things.
Okay.
Did you get it?
No.
Okay, good. Think about it.
All existing things, quotes, that's pointing to the small circle though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Is it because it's in quotes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all things need a definition,
How's it
including
simple?
all existing things.
So if it weren't in quotes,
Right.
Then it would be the big circle.
You need to define
Oh.
all
There-
existing.
So
not
then there's
just
the answer to my
circles.
question.
The quotes are.
Well, it's
the
not a
quotes were the
subset.
tricky part.
Right.
Yeah,
You
it's...
can't just sneak quotes on.
No, I look, I put the codes right on the board.
They weren't there, you put them there.
It's not true. that all things, a subset of which is, for example, changing things, is then also a subset of things that need a definition. That's not true. Does that make sense?
This changing should be below.
So,
Because when I did this, that's the big circle.
so really you're saying that all things in quotes is an element?
It's just a thing that needs
So-
a definition.
But, so all things in quotes is an element of all things? The set of all things?
No.
Shit.
You think about it.
But the rabbit with horns would also fit in that circle then, because it would be a thing that needs a definition.
I don't know, we could debate that. I would argue that things that don't exist don't have definitions. But you could say the mental construct of, when you think of a rabbit with horns, what happens? You get a picture of your mind of a rabbit with horns, right? Even though they don't exist, right? But the idea of rabbit with horns exists, so that could have a definition.
In quotes.
Yeah,
Concept of a
basically.
rabbit with horns.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless you're talking about jackalopes and then... Yeah.
So, my question would sort of be, like, if a banana was the only fruit that exists, right? And so now I'm substituting, basically. So if fruit would be things that need a definition, for example, right? So that's a larger circle. And then the only fruit that existed in the world was a banana. And then there were subsets of a banana. There's an orange banana, green banana, yellow banana, blue banana, and all these things. So that's where I was going. I'm trying to understand the difference of quotations and not.
I know, and it's just, I mean, I guess get around the idea, it's a little bit this discussion, right? You have to think a little bit about how all existing things versus all existing things is totally different.
Because this is a perception of...
Well, because this is a concept.
But it makes the
So the
concept
concept
smaller.
of all existing, it does in this case.
So it's like a
Yeah.
sutrist kind of...
Because it's a concept is just a concept like any other concepts. We could do it that way. Maybe that's easier for you guys. If I wanted to make all existing things the little thing, then the big thing could be concepts,
Yeah.
right? Because in this case, all existing things is just a concept, so then give me another concept.
Concept, jackalope.
Jackalope, democracy, time. These are just ideas, right? So then in that set, in the set of things which are concepts, all existing things is just another concept, just like jackalopes or democracy.
And concept.
So
See?
in this
Or concepts
case,
itself.
democracy is not in the set, in the smaller set.
No, right. This would be all existing things, and then democracy would be here.
So democracy is not part of all existing things.
I didn't say that.
But
It's not the same as the concept of all things.
Yeah.
If you replace quotes with the concept of, then it's a little...
In this case, all existing things is not referring to the category of all existing things.
Right.
It's just simply another concept like any other concept.
Right.
okay.
And so it's just
So
shifting. It's just
yeah,
shifting
yeah.
your perspective,
Yeah.
which we can
slice
do
it
with
up.
which we can do with anything.
Yeah.
And that's the point of the debate. Is it blow your mind?
However, wait a minute.
Yeah.
However, I'm not sure that it's okay in a logical debate to switcheroo between the concept of X and X.
No, you're right.
I think you need to...
No, you're right.
You need to start out with one, and you can't be just like, ha ha ha.
No, you're
That's
absolutely
the concept.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But two things. One, as the defender, it's your responsibility to figure out which one I'm talking
That's
about.
why your lawyer
Because
successful.
that's why he's having such a great time, because nobody knows what the hell he's doing. It's really, if we're debating on the debate ground, it's my responsibility to figure out which one the guy's talking about. Like, I have to ask him, are you talking about all existing things, or are you talking about all existing things? And because if I make a mistake and I assume he's talking about all existing things and he's talking about all existing things, then yeah, I'm going to get burned.
Right,
So-
right. That makes sense. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a fair fight.
Did you just groan?
Brain surgery.
Okay. It hurts. Make it stop. All right. Anyway, I think it's fun. That's because I'm a logic nerd. Okay. Somebody asked me a question. Good, right. What did you want to talk about, or try to say you were going to talk about next?
Logic out karmic correlation.
Oh, right, all right. Okay, so we said before, there's 3 kinds of things you can use as reasons. Crazy list.
Make sure you leave the Eiffel Tower.
Don't erase that, that's important. Alright,
We're the only people who know what that
What
is.
that
Parallel concepts.
okay, so we said yesterday there's 3 things you can use as reasons. You can use a result as a reason, you can use the nature of something or relationship of identity as a reason, and you can use the negation of something as a reason. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll go through, and then we'll cover, this is all going to work out. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to use a result as a reason. I'm saying, what's the result of, what's the cause of my happiness? Well, when I get to do what I want to do, right, that makes me happy. If I get to do what I like to do, then that's going to make me happy. Right, but that's not true, right? So how do we put something in there that's going to make it true? What goes in there for people in the know? Yeah.
I already am.
If that makes someone
That would be a
Right,
relationship of
someone else
identity.
too, okay.
That would be a relationship of identity. What's that?
if that makes somebody else happy.
Yeah.
Sounds so short.
Because I made other
That makes
people
me
happy. Alright. So what's the first law of C? Does anybody know?
Give it away.
Like action produce like result.
Yeah. Must be similar. The cause must be similar to the result. So, use a different color. So, see if I can squeeze it in here. The four laws of seeds, 4 laws of karma. And again, I use seeds because if I say karma, then people get all kinds of crazy ideas. We're all doomed. And karma doesn't mean that. Right? What's the definition for karma? A seed? Anybody know?
Movement of the mind.
Yeah, any movement of the mind. Anything you do, say, or think plants karma seed in your mind. Alright, so what's the 4 laws of how that whole thing works? Number 1, similar. So, can you yell at somebody, and I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Can you say something nice to somebody and get yelling back?
Yes.
Not
We experience that.
Not in that action.
It's so great.
Not aligned with that law.
My
You mean in the
favorite thing.
moment, or do you mean like you plan?
Yeah, there you go.
In the moment.
Ask questions.
Yes.
When it doesn't make any damn sense, ask a question. So, yeah, in the moment, of course we can experience, oh, I say something nice, and they yell at me, right? Of course, everybody's had that happen to them, right? But cause and effect, is that possible?
No.
No. It has to be the case that it must be similar. So what's going on? If I say something nice, and they yell back at me, what's happening in that moment?
Rapid.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to call it the time gap, right? So you yell at somebody in the past. You yell at somebody in the past, and you planted a seed. And that seed's sitting in your mind. You got no clue. You're just going through your day, thinking everything's fine. And then you say something nice, and then that old seed comes out, and right?
But it's intention based, right? So I can yell at my son to stop him from crossing the street.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah, please do. Don't let me convince you you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, everything's intention. So for now, let's assume when I say yelling, I mean yelling because I'm mad at somebody. Okay, so yeah, so I say something nice to say to somebody. I yelled at somebody angrily in the past, so then they yell back at me, and then what do I think in the moment?
WTF.
Yeah,
Didn't work.
yeah. Or I think, I'm not going to be nice to that person anymore. Forget them, man. I see something nice, they scream at me. What a jerk. Right? And it's because I'm not taking into account the time gap. So, similar. So, if I want to be happy, what do I have to do? Make other people happy. So is this correct syllogism? Let's run the test. What's test number 1? Yeah, so what would that be here? Yeah, I me's okay. Yeah. What's test number 2?
3, then 2.
So if I make other people happy, will I have to be happy?
According to that system.
Yeah, leaving into account the time gap. So if I really wanted to make this absolutely true, I'd have to put like eventually in there, give it enough time.
Or is it eventually?
Well, you would say that you made other people happy.
Yeah, made with it, yeah. Yeah, good. That's a little bit better, So we can improve on it slightly. But if the law of seeds number 1 is true, then that one holds. So then what will be number 3, just again to practice engagement?
If I'm not happy, it's because I didn't make others happy?
Yeah.
Oh,
If I'm not happy, it's because I didn't put in effort to make other people happy.
so it's lack of action, lack of seed.
I mean, I also probably did something mean to somebody also. But that is true. If I'm not happy, then I haven't done anything to make other people happy.
But then that also operates under the assumption, you sort of believe in karma project.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we're going to take these as assumptions for right now, right? What's the second law? Let's do another assumption. What's the second law?
Always
Yeah.
good result.
Increasing. So they get bigger. People always ask us, Michael, we do these DCI talks, right? And we say, you want to get rich, you got to give away money. And they're like, well, forget it. If I already got the money, I got the money. Why give it away? I'm holding the money. Well, what are you talking about? I got the money. Forget it. Right? But the idea is that it's increasing, right? So if I give away small amounts of money intelligently in the correct way, understanding how seeds are planted, then much more money will come back to me. So Geshe Michael could give away, hundreds of thousands of dollars and get millions back. Like that's the idea. Right? What's the third one?
Once a seed is planted, it can't be lost.
Yeah.
Observation.
Let's see. Yeah. Done. Must be experienced. So if you do the car and you pay the time, here or hereafter. Then what's the last one?
Nothing is planted, nothing happens.
Yeah, not done, not experienced. And then what's good about that one?
You couldn't have it.
Nothing's random.
Yeah. When something bad happens to us, what's the first thing we think?
Why me?
Why me? It's not fair. I don't deserve this. So you don't have to waste any time on that. You do. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but and then just to counter that, what's the flip side of that?
If you experience it, you just so you can if you find $1 million, if you win the lottery, it's
Yeah, that's true too. Obviously, if something good happens to you, then you deserve it. But that's dangerous to think like that. It is for me anyway. No, I would say that the flip side of it for me is if it wasn't coming from me, if bad things happening to us were just random, then what does that mean? Nothing you can do about it. You have no control over it. It's just shit happens and you're stuck with it.
So many people feel that way.
They do, and are they happy? Right? I mean, it's hard. If we say, oh, everything's coming from you. All the violence and the pain and the suffering in the world is all coming from you. Like, that's kind of a heavy trip, Like, that's a lot of responsibility. But the flip side of it is, that means you can fix it. If you want to live in a world eventually where you're not surrounded by pain and suffering and war and violence and poverty, if you would like to see a place like that, if you'd like to get there, then it's up to you. Right? Nobody else is going to tell you that. To think about it.
Yeah, but if we're all responsible for everything.
Okay, so this is a result. So this is the kind of reason that depends on a result. So what's the cause of being happy? Making other people happy. So then I'm using a cause and result relationship to form syllogism. Got it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what would a syllogism based on identity look like? What do you think?
Use the damn point.
That, okay, I will start using that. Well, I'll tell you the easiest way. What we used to do, and I thought maybe I should do, and I haven't done it yet, but we could do it, is we just say, okay, here's your homework, write out a correct syllogism. And what I used to tell them afterward, you let them struggle for a little while. And then you say, look, the easiest way to create a correct syllogism is to use relationship of identity. So, do you know any relationships of identity? I bet you do.
Something like a,
Anything on here, right? These are all relationships of identity. So, if I want to write out a correct syllogism, it would look something like that. Consider a person, they're a changing thing, because what? You tell me. Right.
they're working.
Yeah, because they're working. And why do you know that's true?
Because it's the definition.
Because anything which is a changing thing is a working thing. See?
So, but isn't that kind of like just a tautology?
It feels like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's not, because again, it's teaching you something. So what is it teaching you when you say changing things or working things? It expresses that relationship. Anything which changes must be something which does something. That's an important relationship to understand. What else? Give me another one.
Well, I think that also works because of the subject, right? You're bringing this example, person.
Yeah. Yeah. Here.
You're bringing something, it's not just a pure tautology. You're bringing another thing.
Yeah, we're adding information. Yeah, exactly. So here, somebody give me something. Be brave. Be bold. Anybody at all.
Say, consider space.
Consider space.
It's unchanging
It's unchanging.
because
Because
Doesn't exist.
because
Oops. What?
Oops.
What? Did I say that? Let's do it. Just
Trying to do
so
it true, no?
hang on a sec, Ted. Because it
I'm sorry. Ted.
exists.
that's right.
Let's run the test.
You saved
True or false?
False.
Why?
Because there are things that exist that are not unchanging.
Yeah. So it's going to fail which test?
The second.
Yeah.
And
And
the third.
and the third. Yeah. Is it necessarily the case when something exists must be unchanging? No, right? Give me an example.
Changing.
Or no, sorry.
Unchanging.
Anything in here? Dog, cat, monkey. Okay. All right. So let's try again. Consider space it's unchanging because.
It's not made.
Yeah. Good. You can negate any of these, right? It's not made. It's not changing. It's not working.
Wait, so is that,
It's not very,
It's not a physical thing. It's not a mental thing.
so is that identity or is that negation? Is that the next one?
Ooh, yeah, good. That's where I was trying to go next. I was going to start negating stuff and
Can you do one with identity before, one more?
yeah. So you give me one. Your turn. Give me something.
Sounds great, so I have to do that.
But
Sucker.
if there's a partition into changing and unchanging, isn't identity and negation just like very similar because you can phrase their
They are
definition as the
similar.
opposite?
There's something. But you could also negate a reason, right? So we can
Okay.
do that too, which is what I wanted to do. So let's do both. So give me a right to provide identity that's true. Victoria.
I don't know if you'd be able to alter identity. So you'd be like, consider me, I'm mortal
Yep.
because I will die.
Consider me. I'm
Or
mortal
humans.
because I will. Okay. I don't know. Let's run the test. What's the relationship between 1 and 3?
you know.
Me and I will die. We can talk about that, but for now, let's assume that's true.
Okay, so not mind person, consider people, humans.
That's fine. No, let's apply it to me. That's what death meditation is. If you ever take death meditation, I mean, the reason why we do death meditation is because we want to make it available to us that we are, in fact, probably going to die if we don't do something different. You know, like the purpose of death meditation is at the end of the meditation, you're supposed to realize, is what I'm doing what I would be doing if today was my last day?
It's about crafting.
You know, and if it's not, then you should look at it, right? Because we forget. We think, oh, I got forever, right? I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna die today, anyway, right? Not today. So let's watch a movie, right? That's the logic. Yeah. Consider movies. I'm gonna watch one because I'm not gonna die today. True or false?
False.
Yeah, false. I don't know that I'm not gonna die today. Okay. What's test number 2? If 3 is true, I will die. Is it true that I am mortal?
I will die. I
Yeah.
must be mortal.
Yes.
That's fine.
Understanding.
That's cool.
If I will not die.
And if you weren't mortal, you would not die. Yeah. So that's fine.
So then is that by identity?
Yeah.
Okay.
You could say then consider produce things, they are impermanent because I will die.
Consider.
I will die is part of it.
Let's see. Consider produced things. What did you say? They will change?
No, they are impermanent.
Oh, they are impermanent. They are. We have to be careful with that particular word, right? Did you mean impermanent or did you mean unchanging?
Well, I mean
Right,
impermanent
right.
in the proper translation.
Good. Consider produced thing. They are impermanent because you said I will die.
They,
Yeah. fine.
What are we considering?
Produced things.
so it needs to be they, or else the person has to
No,
right?
because I'm a producer.
No, it's okay. Yeah, yeah. So, and I wanted to do that too. So maybe we should do that now. Okay, let's say we're not sure. Or let's say we run test number 1 and we're like, I don't know. Maybe it's not true. So, in the monastery you say Takkaguru. And what Takkaguru means is your reason's not established. But what that means is I don't see the relationship between 1 and 3. So again, don't get thinking it means I don't like the reason. That's not what it means. What it means is, yeah, show me the relationship between 1 and 3. That's exactly what it means. So what you do is, if you're given the syllogisms, the next step is
Tibetan for a word.
too much Latin. The next step is you keep the subject the same. So subject stay the same. Consider produce thing. Then your number 3 becomes your new number 2. So consider produce thing. It is true that I will die. And then you give a new reason. Which could be anything.
My mother told me.
My mother told me. Well, that's going to fail test number 2, but that's okay.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted a correct reason.
Yeah, that's correct would be maybe better. Consider produce thing. Like, so the best thing, so to make it more explicit, then what you would say is, consider produce thing, I will die because I am a produced thing. That make sense? So now just make the connection explicit. See, because you said consider produced things, and you didn't mention that you consider yourself a produced thing, then somebody could wonder. I wonder if he thinks he's a produced thing or not, right? So they say Takkaguru, and you say consider produced things. It is true that I will die because I am a produced thing,
Yeah,
right? And then you show explicitly the relationship between the reason and the subject.
that's helpful, because that's in the reading all the time.
So it's like a lemma.
Yeah. So then if they accept that, then you go back up here, and you go back to this one, and then you do test number 2.
So you always break it down with more syllogisms to explain.
You keep going. Yeah, you keep
Explicitly
going.
testing your logic for your own basic logic. If someone else
Yeah.
is questioning.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You don't just, if somebody says, I don't like your syllogism, you don't just stop. You keep going
Right.
until you reach something that both people agree on.
But then they'll say, that you're not a produced thing.
They might.
Yeah.
They might. They may see Takkaguru again.
Yeah.
No, I don't accept that you're a produced thing. You have an eternal soul. You're not produced. Souls are unchanging. Then what would you say?
It's not true that souls are unchanging, because
Well, let's do it.
Yeah, let's
Consider
do it.
souls.
Consider souls.
Yeah.
They're unchanging.
You could consider the composition of I. Or me.
Alright. Let's start again. So, maybe this. Okay. So what do we start with? Let's start with the second one. So, consider
Maybe it's still down.
yeah. That spot.
There's one right in the,
Yeah, let's try this one. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Consider a produced thing. I will die because I am produced. Right? And they say, talk group, I don't like, reason's not established. I don't see the connection. Why don't I see the connection? Because I don't believe you're a produced thing. All right, so then you go, okay, great. Consider a produced thing. I am produced because what?
I was born.
Yeah, good. Because I was made, right? Because I was made, because I have causes. Because I function. I can do things, right? Because those are all synonyms. If I can do something, look at me, I'm writing on the board, then I'm a produced thing. If I'm a produced thing, then I'll go back, I'll die.
So here you have multiple reasons.
Yeah, you just keep going. See, they just say, if they want to say talk to group again, right? Okay, I don't think you're made. I don't think you're, I don't think you have causes. You don't come from causes.
So you really just wrote,
Of course I come from causes.
you
I have
wrote 3
parents.
syllogisms at once.
No, not at once, they're sequential. See, it's a flow. You go from one to the next to the next to the next, and you just keep going until finally they
Just
agree
like
with you.
in green.
Yeah. See, if they say talk to group, do this, number 3 becomes number 2, I make up a new number 3, and I keep going.
Let's say because I made, I have confidence because of function.
Uh-huh.
What's that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, right. Terrible. Okay. Are the wheels turning a little bit anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can you do the one with soul though?
Yeah, so okay, I missed it. Where did the soul go?
Consider soul. I forget what we were.
Oh, yeah, that's why I see you have to, so one thing, if you want this to work, if you want to debate logically and you want to think logically, you can't like throw out random stuff.
Okay.
What about a soul? What about a soul? Well, we weren't talking about souls. I mean, he might be thinking you're not produced because you have a soul, but that's not going to get him out of this. Right? As long as I can establish that I have causes, it doesn't matter whether he thinks I have a soul or not. If we want to discuss that separately, we can. But the logical thing to do would be to follow this to its conclusion. So unless he wants to insist that you don't have causes, which is crazy, he has to accept this. If he has to accept this, he has to accept that. If he has to accept that, he has to accept the first one.
so let's say he accepts, playing devil's advocate, let's say he accepts that you have causes, but he still thinks there's like an Atman part of you that has, changing soul. That is an unchanging soul.
Well, then
How do you get there?
We'd have to do a different debate, right? So how do you want to do it? Can consider me. Part of me is unchanging. You can say that, right? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Part of me is unchanging. Because I have a soul.
So on that one, you're nailing down what you mean by me. And that kind of determines.
Well, actually, this is so open-ended right now. We'd have to back up. We'd have to say, what do you mean by me? Do you mean person? Do you mean? I mean, is this self-referential? When you say soul, do you mean me? Like, is the person the soul? Like in your mind, if the person equals
What if
soul?
he said because I'm always witnessing me?
All right, give me the whole thing.
Part of me.
Consider me, part of me is unchanging because I always witness the unchanging.
Or I witnessed the change.
No, I witnessed the changing.
Self-perception
Yeah.
of the mind, right?
Yeah, we're supposed to talk about that's in the next class. Wrong work. Does anybody know what wrong work is? Yeah, what's wrong work?
Self-perception of the mind watching itself.
The mind-only school thinks the mind can see itself. the mind can be aware of itself as a mind and be looking at itself at the same time. And Prasangika denies that. Do you know why? Do you remember why?
It's like a knife cutting itself.
Yeah.
Knife
What,
cutting
like
itself.
what's that?
I didn't hear her answer.
Oh, she said it's like a knife cutting itself.
Oh,
That's an
An
analogy,
eye
though.
can't see itself, right?
What's that?
An eye can't see itself.
Yeah, another good analogy. But the idea is that the mind can only hold one object at a time. So if the mind is holding itself as an object, then it can't be thinking about itself as an object, because that would be two things. So it's in the subject-object class that we're talking about. We're skipping ahead. But if you separate out as two different things, subject versus object, you can't be looking at an object and being aware of the subject at the same time, because that's two things. And we deny that. We say the mind can only be aware of one object at a time. And if you ever think you're aware of more than one object at a time, what you're really doing is you're very quickly vacillating, back and forth between the two.
Like tabs on your computer screen.
Yeah,
So would you say vacillating between subject-object?
yeah.
So in the moment that I'm perceiving you, I am you, then.
What?
If I'm vacillating between subject and object, right? Like I'm seeing myself witness you. In the moment that I'm witnessing you, there is no self to
No,
witness you.
no.
Is that what
Oh,
you're saying?
you're just not aware of it. Like when you're looking at an object, like if I'm aware of cup,
Right.
I'm thinking about cup, I'm not thinking about myself.
Right.
I can't be aware of myself at the same moment that I'm looking at cup.
Oh, that's
all.
beautiful. That's so beautiful.
But yeah, in Mind-only school they say that your mind takes the form of the object which it's holding. That your mind takes that shape. Which is really interesting. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's interesting to think about. Okay. All right, any questions?
I don't know if this is related, but in Chi Chedrak, could one's identity be a Chi, and then one's specifics of one's identity be Chedrak?
Yes.
And the Chi is not necessarily real, not because it's such a general category, it's not necessarily a thing.
Well, you can pick anything to be a chi. Anything. That was kind of the debate we did before about even all-inclusive things can be a cheda. Like it kind of goes both ways. Like you can pick anything and make it a chi. You can pick anything and make it a cheda. That's the kind of the interesting thought experiment that was going on. So pick anything you want and think about how it could be a chi. Pick anything you want and think about how it could be a cheda.
So an identity could be a chi, but be insubstantial, or what was the unchanging thing? Could it be unchanging thing?
Yeah, you could. Well, if you pick the chi unchanging thing, one of the chedas could be self. Okay, so we're supposed to talk about causes a little bit more. So the definition of a cause, just because, like we said, definitions are really important. You can really waste a lot of time thinking about something if you're not clear about your definition. So, like, what do you mean about, what is a soul? Like, what does that look like, So the definition of a cause is anything that brings something else about. Keche. Ket means to give birth to or to arise, and chet means to do or make. So anything that makes something else arise, you say that's the definition of cause. And then this was where I add some more stuff to our chart. So changing thing equals made thing equals working thing equals cause equals result. So what does that mean? Well, if I talk about myself as a changing thing, then it had causes, right? Which is what we were just talking about a little bit before. Now, the ultimate reason that I see myself is because I planted a seed to see myself, right? But if we dumb it down to a lower school a little bit for just a second, they would usually argue, for example, that your parents were your cause. So if we talk about physical causation for a minute like that, then what's the cause of you? Your parents, right? What's the cause of them? Their parents. So they're a changing thing because they made something happen. They're a working thing. They change over time. Right? They made something, they made you, and they're also a result. They're the result of their parents. So every changing thing is like that. Every changing thing is also a cause, is also a result. It must have come from something else, it's a result, and it must result in something else in the future, it's a cause. Does that make sense? And like I said, conservation of matter is like totally works with this particular system. For some reason they use flowers all the time as examples. So the flower itself will produce seeds. The seeds that come from the flower, it's a cause. It itself came from a seed, so it's a result. It's a changing thing because flowers change, and it's a working thing because it's producing something. So does that make sense? Then they talk about this is kind of fun, in the lower schools, especially Abhidharma. Most of this stuff about causation actually comes from Abhidharma school, which is which number?
Yes.
Number 1, right? It's the lowest possible school. But don't let that dissuade you necessarily. Because the more I study science, Geshe Michael says he's going to write a science book next, so I started studying all the science stuff. And the more you read Abhidharma, the more they sound like scientists. It's really interesting. There's a lot of similarities. Because Abhidharma is always looking at physical causation, which is exactly what science is also doing. So they share a lot of similarities. So in Abhidharma, they actually have a list of 6 causes, and we won't do them all. But my favorite one, just to throw it out there, is anything which... I'm getting ahead of myself. It's okay, no. Anything which doesn't stop something from happening is a cause. So for example, a cause for your birth is Lincoln's death. Does Lincoln's assassination in any way interfere with your birth? No. So it's a cause. I love it. It's crazy. It's ridiculous, but I love it. So anything that you can think of which wasn't an obstacle to something, then they would argue is a cause for it. Now, is that true?
So all of the women that didn't date your husband are the reason that you're married to him.
Sure. But now then I'll ask you.
They weren't the obstacles.
Is that really? Well, if they weren't, is that? So is that really a cause? Why not? What's a simple way to know that it's not?
You have to be connected.
That's true too. That's
They are
true too.
connected indirectly, right?
Well,
What makes sense
use the chart. Use the chart. So, if something which did not get in the way, is that positive or negative?
It's negative.
It's negative. If it's a negative thing, it must be. If it's unchanging, it's not a cause. Because we added right over here. Result and cause. Anything which is a cause is a result, is a working thing, is a changing thing, is a made thing. Okay? So it's opposite to unchanging things. So if I say something which did not interfere with your birth, I'm talking about something negative, which is a fact, which goes over here, means it's not a cause. Can't be.
But you're not actually talking about the cause itself. You're talking about that one category of not causing.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying. Well,
Yeah.
we'll talk about what root causes are now. Anyway, that's just for fun.
So you're sort of saying there that there's not necessarily a mutual exclusivity between obstacle and cause, just because it's not a cause and not an obstacle.
No, again, basically, I'm just basically trying to show you if you put this chart in your mind, it helps you a lot. The Abhidharma school is going to argue that things that are not obstacles to something is a cause, and that's ridiculous. And you would know that instantly if you have this chart in your mind, because you know unchanging things can't be causes.
So that's more about the relationship, though. It's about that being the cause of something instead. Like Lincoln's death is not an unchanging thing.
What is a fact.
Yeah, it's an event.
Okay.
You mean you want to talk about it as an event?
If we accept
Okay.
that Lincoln died and he was a person
Yeah.
who was shot and he died, that's an event, and we can agree that that's
So yeah,
fact.
that is a caused thing.
Sure. But as
But
soon
it
as you
doesn't
add
cause-
not into there, then I think it changes it. So,
But it's not saying all the things. It's just saying that things that are not an obstacle are in contradiction to the cause, meaning those things. But then everything else would be like Lincoln's death is not in that category; it's in this category.
well, yeah, sure. No, just again,
That's just taken off the quotation
I
marks.
feel like You know, you want to grab onto Lincoln's death and say, is it a change? I feel like you're asking me, is Lincoln's death an unchanging thing or a changing thing? Yes, no. I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. You know, if I say Lincoln's death is not the cause, right, then that makes it an unchanging thing. Is Lincoln's death a changing thing? Yes, of course.
How?
See,
How? How is Lincoln's death a change?
because it's an event, like you said.
But it's a fact.
Well, if you talk about it as a fact, then it's unchanging.
Define fact and event.
Yes, please.
Well, okay. Define fact and an event. That's good. I don't know. I've never seen a definition for those things.
Definition is
I
key.
mean, definition is key. I mean, fact would be something that is true, and event would be something which happened.
So fact is something which is true, therefore changing. And event is something which occurred, therefore something.
Yeah. Ultimate reality, right, is emptiness, is unchanging. So the closer you get to something being true, the closer you get to something being unchanging. And in fact, it's going to be negative.
Okay, and now event.
And then event is like perception. Remember how we did at the beginning? We said, perceptions can cause things, but emptiness itself can't. So this is similar.
An event is subject to perception, which is.
Yeah.
Right.
If an event is caused, then it must be a changing thing. Right?
And it's caused by perception, which can vary.
I'll just throw out sort of randomly. One of my favorite things is the more you study emptiness, the more you realize things aren't contradictory. Mm-hmm. Like we get stuck on things a lot of the time, and we think, oh, that has to be like that. And then the more you start to study emptiness, the more you realize that the things that our mind try to present to us as contradictory, they're really not. Everything just kind of depends on how you're looking at it.
Is that meant to be comforting?
Yeah, I was trying. Anyway, so that was fully a diversion. I'm glad you guys were interested in it. What we're supposed to be talking about is you can divide, generally speaking, there's two ways that Abhidharma or Sautrantika likes to divide causes. So one is direct and indirect. Like in general, let's say what's the direct cause for something and what's the indirect cause for something. So again, they're scientists, so they want to talk about physical stuff. So let's talk about the flower. Right. So what's now lower school, not higher school. Lower school, what's the cause for the flower?
Seed.
Yeah, we say seed, or they say sprout. It doesn't matter. Let's say seed. All right. Okay, so the seed is the cause of the flower.
Well, with some other stuff.
Yeah, like what?
Sunlight.
Yeah, you need sunlight.
Protein.
You need soil. What else? You need water.
Proteins for photosynthesis.
What?
The proteins for...
Proteins for photosynthesis inside the flower. Yeah, if you want to get biological, you need chlorophyll. You need, what's that? You need bees, right? You need bees to get to here. There has to have been a bee.
Time.
Hey, that's nice. You need time. All right. So the debate they had, the lower school guys who were trying to look at physical causation, they're like, okay, so which one is the cause? Is it the soil? Is it the water? Is it the sunlight? Or is it the seed?
That's not a good argument. I mean, you could say fire. You need fuel, you need oxygen, you need heat. If you don't have all three, it doesn't happen. And same with that. If you don't have all that stuff, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, that's what they're looking at, right? So yeah, let's just go with this for a second, right? So which one is the cause? Is it the seed? Is it the soil? Is it the water? Is it the flower? Or is it the sun? Which one?
The combination.
Direct.
Well, so you
and circumstantial.
can't say all of them because then you'd have to have multiple flowers. See, to get one thing, one cause comes out to one result. Right? If you allow for multiple causation, you start to have a lot of problems.
So the result is a cause.
Yes, all results are causal, and the other way, whichever one I just said.
Wait, talk more group about...
You can't have a cause.
You said that earlier, right? All results are causes, all causes are results.
Yes.
About
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
And then
Why the only one thing causes thing?
Yeah.
Well, then theoretically, I don't want to spend too much time on this. We can talk about it more later. But theoretically, if multiple causes required to produce a single result, the universe is simplifying. Right? Multiple causes are slowly distilling down to single results until you get to a single result.
The other thing, the other way could be true too.
Well, that's chaos theory, right, or entropy. Yeah. So which one is it?
Both.
Neither.
Why not?
Both or neither? Yeah, sure, fine. Okay, so let's stick to this for a second. Just for a second, let's hold to this. So which one is the real cause? Right? 'Cause we're still in a school that believes in real external reality. Right? Somewhere along the line, we have to find a real functioning thing, or else this is all just dream illusion. Right? So what's the real thing that's producing the flower?
Seed.
Yeah, they're going to say the seed. They're going to say the seed. They're going to say the seed is the direct cause, and all these other things are indirect causes. Okay, and then the other way they explain it is they say, so then you say, well, why? Why? What's your criteria? You know, what's the reason why this is direct and those are indirect? You need all of them, right? So then they say, okay, well, this is the material cause. What's the definition of material cause? Anybody know?
Physical apparatus that.
Does that have to do with the fact that water and sunlight cause other things besides that flower?
Yeah. What is it?
The thing that moves over is the moment.
It's the thing that flops over. See, so physically, sunlight doesn't really. Sunlight doesn't ordinarily, in and of itself, transform itself into a flower, right? But a seed is a physical thing that you expect to flop over into a flower. So they say this is the material cause. She's laughing. That's great. Another example they use is pot, right? Because pot's our favorite example because we got to make tea. Okay. So what's the material cause for pot? Clay. Right.
And then the pot maker would be.
And then the pot maker would be the contributing factor. Oh, and then they call these.
The potter.
These
the
are
kiln.
contributing factors. So then in lower schools, this is all they just debate this constantly. Like what's the material cause and what's the contributing
dark
factor?
alleys.
What's that?
In dark alleys.
Yeah, wrestling around in the background. No, it's not the clay. It's the dude. No, it's not the dude. It's the clay. Like then they have all these fights forever and ever and ever. Anyway, so you're supposed to know that. But so what's the warning that we gave you about lower schools?
Incorrect.
Yeah, they're all wrong. Okay, so what's the real cause for the flower?
Saying something beautiful.
Yeah, you planted a seed to seed flower. If you think flowers are beautiful, right? If you don't like flowers, then maybe they give you allergies or something. Then you hurt somebody else, so then that'd be cause for the flower.
You made someone sneeze.
Yeah. And what's the cause for the pot?
They can bring you to.
Yeah, you gave somebody else a pot or shared a pot with somebody or something like that. Yeah.
Yes, maybe you don't want to go here, but what's the cause for saying something beautiful? Like where does will come into play? Like where is the seed for your ability or your drive to then say something beautiful?
Yeah, let me. If I don't answer that, ask me again. I think we're going to get to that a little bit here because. Does anybody know what's the proof for past and future lives?
Mind never starts or stops.
Mind stream, right? So they say the same thing about the mind. So what's the direct cause? What's the material cause for a moment of mind?
Previous moment of mind.
Previous moment of mind, right? You had a thought. That flopped over into another thought, which will flop over into another thought.
Where was the first thought?
Yes. Then this is the question people want to ask. So then where did the first thought come from? Where did the first thought come from?
Big Bang.
The Big Bang.
Big thought.
The big thought. Explosion of thought. If every result is a cause, and every cause must be a result, where did the first thought come from?
It didn't.
It didn't. It can't. Right? And we're going to struggle with that, right? Because we grew up thinking the Big Bang is the cause of everything. Some scientist came up with this idea of a giant explosion causing everything. We fell for it. Then we think we're smart Western people. We can blow stuff up with nuclear bombs. We can make iPhones. We know what we're talking about. There must be a first cause. But logically, that's ridiculous. A a first cause doesn't make any sense, because everything which is a cause must be a result, and everything which is a result must have had a cause, right? So there can have been a first thought. It must be the case that you had a thought previously. So
Unless everybody's going to stop thinking at some point, and there's going to be an end to thinking. And there could have been a beginning to thinking if there is an end to thinking.
But if there's no beginning,
it's not bad. It's not bad. You'd have to pause
Because
it.
I'm born, I'm going to die, so I'm going to.
but once you say there's no beginning, you take out time, and so you couldn't have a stop.
Yeah, well, it is true generally that anything which has no beginning has no end. So then, ergo, anything which has an end must have no beginning.
Except like
Yeah,
Sunday
except
that
for-
was religion.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's lines and then there's segments and then there's rays, right?
What?
A ray has a starting point and no ending point. A line has no starting point or ending point, and the line segment has starting point and ending point.
Rays.
Yeah. Vectors, yeah.
Vectors. Let me think about that a little bit. All right.
Cool.
What do you thought about vectors? I mean, my gut reaction is, a vector is the concept.
Right, and it starts from that time, but I don't know.
I mean, of course you can randomly,
You can imagine it.
you can imagine something like that, right?
That doesn't mean that
It doesn't mean that it has
had to flop from somewhere.
existence, right? It had to have come from somewhere. even from a seed perspective, of course, we would say, well, the ray that you drew on the piece of paper came from you drew the ray on the piece of paper. So we would say you can't say that the ray began from a single point. But anyway, let me think about that a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah. The reason I wanted to talk about this though is this true? What did I say about material causes? Is that true? Is the cause for the flower the seed?
Not that seed.
From that perspective.
Not in that school.
And ultimately, we would say no, right? In this school, they say yes. We say no, that's not true, right? Lots of times you plant seeds, you have water, you have the soil, you have the sunlight, and what happens? Nothing. No flower grows. There's something wrong with the seed, or some bunny comes along and eats it, or, and you never get a flower. And we would say that's kind of a proof that the seed actually isn't the cause for the flower, because by definition, the cause must produce the result. If the cause doesn't produce the result, how is it a cause? If it didn't cause anything, how are you going to call it a cause? It doesn't make any sense, like, by itself, right? So the cause must produce a result. Well, then what about this? Does this still hold true then? Is this still a proof for past and future lives? If this is not actually a real description of causation?
The thought always caused another thought, I don't know. Maybe not in my case.
Yeah.
Some of us,
It would hold true, but not necessarily sequentially.
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do. No, we would say the seed is the real cause for the flower. If you don't have the seed to see a flower, you can't see a flower. So then, using the same logic, what's the cause for a thought? Which is to get all the way back to your question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the cause for a thought?
The seed.
The seed.
We're talking,
And then-
just to be clear, we're talking about karmic seeds, not.
Yeah, sorry, karmic seeds. And then where did that karmic seed come from?
Previous.
A karmic action.
Yeah, probably a thought, right? You thought something, that planted a seed, right? We said before, everything you think, say, or do plants a seed. So if I think something, that plants a seed. What's going to happen? I'm going to have a thought. When that thought comes, what am I going to do? I react to that thought and plant a new seed.
Right.
So then what will happen? A new thought. So there's no beginning to it, no end to it. That's the short answer. All that for that. I could have just said that at the beginning.
More materially speaking, say you have a jug of water and the jug is made of glass. You break the glass, the water spills out. So then where does the water go? So you mop up the water and the water goes into a rag, and then from the rag, the water.
Yeah. It's very similar. Like, it's a great analogy. Like I said, basically we would say conservation of matter is not actually true. But it's a great analogy to what we're describing. Because it does work very similarly. Nothing's really destroyed. Everything just transforms into something else. Somebody yells at me, I react to that plants a new seed, and the cycle starts again. Nothing's really lost. You're always reacting to things, which is always going to create a new set of circumstances. so it never ends.
Does your reaction to things would then have to depend on the seed that you have, right? So I guess the thing that I'm trying to work out is.
Oh yeah, you asked about
concept
free
of
will.
Free will,
Yeah.
then, we've grown up that
Yeah.
might exist or might not. Like how, if there isn't an original seed that allows, like how can I?
We're all doomed.
How can I? Where does my decision to make a good choice, as
Sure.
it were, where does that come from? If
Sure.
if it's dependent on the seeds that I had before.
Sure.
Yeah. Just,
Yeah, sure. Has everybody got this?
So, I
I
mean,
can erase it.
but is that because like free will isn't, it's not an event, it's like a habit that you engage in?
Well, I'll give you two ways to look at it. One is one answer we give to the free will question. What does Geshe Michael always say? I remember my answer now. I can't remember Geshe Michael's answer.
Free will?
Yeah.
It just makes the joke.
Oh yeah, yeah. He has this joke he likes to do now. He says they went to a talk one time and he explained seeds and emptiness, and this guy raised his hand and said, "Then we have no choice but to accept free will." Which sounds crazy, but it's actually true. Every seed must have a result, correct?
yes.
Do we accept that? I mean, for now? Yeah. Okay. So, if every seed has a result, what result must I get if I offer someone else a choice?
If you offer someone else a choice.
You get it.
You get it.
So you get to make a choice. And now, is that real? It's as real as anything else. I mean, everything that's determined from a seed, everything that's a result of a seed, we would say that's real. So, does that mean you're operating outside the realm of seeds when you make a choice? No. It's all conditioned. You planted a seed to be able to make a choice. Okay? So in that sense, there is no free will. Everything's the result of the seed. No getting out of that. But if you plant a seed to see yourself making a choice, then you are making a choice. And so then if that's true, what we would want to do is plant more of those kinds of seeds. Like when somebody yells at me, all right, say somebody yells at me, and what's my initial reaction going to be? Yeah, shut up, you jerk. How dare you speak to me like that? All right. But assuming now I've meditated, thought about all this stuff, and offered other people choices, what choice do I have in that moment?
Compassion.
Yeah, if I think about seeds, oh crap, I don't want to yell back at this person or say something nasty, that's just going to repeat the cycle. Right? So in that moment then, I choose to not yell back. Then I break the cycle. But now, consider somebody who isn't doing that. They're not studying seeds. They're not studying emptiness. They're not offering other people choices. And somebody yells at them. What's going to happen? They have to yell back. Right? And
Or cry.
Continue the cycle. Or cry or get upset.
And yelling back and
Somewhere.
responding in like would be an example of not choosing.
Right.
So that's kind of code word for the whole way out of samsara, right?
I guess they still have. You go ahead.
No, you finished.
No, it's just, there was no original seed. If the seeds
Right.
go back into
Right.
them.
Right. There can't be. You have every seed that you need. Every seed that's going to exist in your world, you already have. So, what's the proof of that? Geshe Michael likes to say, like the first time you hear the word nirvana is not the first time you heard the word nirvana. The first time you try to imagine what a Buddha's like, what it's like to become a Buddha, is not the first time you try to imagine what it's like to become a Buddha.
Right.
You have all the seeds like that already in your mind. We just need to figure out how to access them.
Why does it feel like that? Why do I feel like, hey, this is the first time I thought about it?
That's the seed.
Well, because it is. I mean, again, we have to define first. If you define first as the first time it happened to me in this life, well, then it is the first.
I think you just answered my vector question.
Cool. But we can't say. I mean, we can say, for example, we can't say things happen to us for the first time. There is the first kiss. There is the first whatever. But what was the cause? The cause had to come from something else. The first time you experienced something came from a cause that you planned before. As long as you're okay with that, then we can talk about first time something happened to you.
But you have experienced that thing before.
Well, people always ask this question. It's interesting. You should think about it. There's two answers. as always. One is there's nothing new. Like, so, okay, you can say, okay, well, no, Henry Ford invented the first car. Right, but what did he do? He took the concept of a carriage and took the concept of a motor, put them together. It's not really new. He just combined two ideas that people had before, right? And then he made a new idea, but it's not really new.
It's like writing new songs.
Writing a new song, right? It came from somewhere. You know, some influence you had combined with your musical, you know, training in the past and new song, right? But it didn't come from nothing.
Just like
So that's
that
one answer.
concept of
Wait, what's the other one?
What's the other one? Well, the way this usually comes up is people say, well, whoa, wait a minute. I need to have the direct perception of emptiness. And I've never had it before. So how's that supposed to happen? So one way to explain it is, on the path of preparation, is we're saying you start seeing connections that you never saw before. You start connecting the dots. And again, that's why we're studying all this stuff. You start connecting, making all these associations. Like when I say, so if you've never heard of emptiness before, and I say emptiness, what occurs to your mind? Right? This like vague, kind of wishy-washy, new agey thing, right? And then you get some training, and your idea of what emptiness is changes. Right? You start adding things to it. So the idea is that you keep adding things to that concept until the concept finally becomes correct. So that's one perspective. The other perspective is you actually have already seen emptiness before. The reason why it's not working for you is what? What's the most important thing about any action? Intention. Right? So you have seen emptiness before. You just didn't have the right intention when you did it.
Wait, what?
That is pretty loaded.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I never heard that before. Who said that? Ven Nyingpo making up stuff.
The recorder just went off.
Very interesting.
Wow.
Secret teaching nobody else gets. All the people in this room. Awesome.
Green Dragon Kung Fu.
Yeah.
No, it's logic.
Cool.
They say when you die, everything dissolves. Everything goes back to nothing, right? And you actually pass through a moment where you are experiencing emptiness. The thing is, we can't do that consciously. It's all an automatic process right now. You know, as you die, everything starts to dissolve, your mind starts to lose control. And then, you know, like another reason to do, well, sort of when we're describing the death process, you know, they say, like, you know, I use the example of my laptop that's working and I get all pissed off, right? So imagine your favorite thing, like close your eyes, imagine your favorite thing, all right? Now imagine you lose your favorite thing, or your favorite thing gets broken. How do you feel? Not good, right? Now imagine losing every single thing you ever had all at the same time. That's the death process, right? So in that moment, our mind is like, goes nutso. Like, talk about cats stuck in a box, like, you know, crazy. Like, mind's totally nutso. So at the moment that we experience that, the mind can't really take advantage of it, because we're just not in a mental space to do that. Our intention's just like, whew, you know. So then a part of what all the like Tibetan training is, especially if you study Mantika, and the idea is, can I train my mind so when I hit that moment, I do it consciously? And if I can't hit that moment and do it consciously, then that changes everything, because then I did see emptiness directly. So.
I know the argument for why you've never been a Buddha is that you wouldn't be suffering now, but couldn't that same argument work?
What do you mean?
Like that I've been a Buddha before.
No.
Well, you can say, I mean, so there's an idea in the Nyingpo tradition, right? It's not so popular in the Gelugpa tradition, or we use it totally differently. But in the Nyingpo tradition, there's this idea of Samantabhadra. Mm-hmm. And Samantabhadra is supposedly a Buddha who's always been a Buddha and always will be a Buddha. So to a Gelugpa, that's an anathema, because you're basically saying like, well, there's some uncaused Buddha out there. That's ridiculous, right? But if you think about it, and you study emptiness for a long time, and you understand the characteristics of a Buddha, the Buddha that will come from your mind stream is sitting here right now watching you. And that Buddha exists in all three times. So that Buddha, he or her, always has been, always will be, and is here right now watching you. So from that perspective, you say,
Oh wait, watching me or is me?
well, what do you mean by what do you mean by is?
Because that Buddha exists outside of time, right?
Yeah. So they have to have always been and always will be,
You have to have one.
because they're not limited by time. And they're aware of all three times.
I'm trying to get this question in, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay, but it occurred to me in her, how do you have free will? And could we say we have a basic Buddha nature tendency towards purity? And so if we have to make a decision, I guess depending on how foggy that purity has become, you can reach in and make the right decision, positive. What do you think?
Yeah, we say Buddha, higher school just says Buddha nature is just emptiness. We can't say we have a natural tendency towards goodness, because we don't. Sometimes we do really nasty things, especially in this world. If all human beings had a natural tendency towards goodness, then Hitler and Mao Zedong, we got a big problem. But I like the idea of being pure. And then what the question becomes is, because you're emptiness, you can become anything else. So then for me what the question is, now how do I plant a pure seed? And that's a whole other subject. And again, it's one of my favorite subjects because it's so important.
Good question.
But yeah, that's a great question and a great subject.
So you don't think we have Buddha nature?
No, of course you do. But again, for us, Buddha nature just means that you're empty.
Emptiness.
Yeah. Your emptiness and your Buddha nature's emptiness exactly the same.
Okay, but does emptiness also imply kindness, compassion, a tendency towards goodness?
No.
So you could be an empty bad guy.
Of course. Of course.
That's why there's bad guys.
That is why there's bad guys.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem. We can't say human beings have a natural tendency towards being good because we have all these counterexamples. If we write it out of syllogism, consider human beings have a tendency towards good because they do good things. That's not going to work out.
I heard in some teaching or read somewhere that
Oh, sure.
even the nastiest person will have some compassion for somebody at some time.
Well, yeah, sure.
Hitler had a dog.
Well, we always, we all, like I said before, we all have seeds for goodness. Even the nastiest, meanest person in the world still has all the seeds in their mind that they need to be a good, kind person. Yeah. But you can't say that you have a natural tendency towards one. See, that's like denying emptiness. You can. It feels nice and we all enjoy it. But really, it's not true. But we do, like I said, we are all empty, and we all already have all the seeds we need. We just have to figure out how to ripen them properly.
So that means we have Hitler seeds then, too.
Of course. We could just as easily turn out to be Hitler. And it happens all the time. So. Sorry. Okay, let's see. How are we doing here? Okay. Okay, definition of result is something brought about. That's simple, that's easy, just so you have a working definition of result. I already covered all that, which is cool. We already talked about that. Hey, we're making progress. So I think the last thing I want to talk about is different kinds of tsema, and we started this a little bit yesterday. So what are the three kinds of valid perception?
Direct, indirect, and authoritative.
What are the two kinds of valid perception?
Direct and indirect.
Direct and
Yeah, then how do we get the third?
Authoritative,
by
scriptural,
indirect.
deduction.
Indirect.
I'm just throwing it out.
When she does that. Just throw it out there and see if it sticks. This is a kind of that.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually we have to cover that question.
It depends on indirect. Authority depends on-
Yes. So let me do it that way. Another way to do this list is to say this one has. I messed up my board. And it says indirect. This one works, I think. And they say there's three kinds of indirect. Yes. Okay. So one they say one is deduction. That's the one we always talk about. One they say, and this is interesting, we can talk about this. Waste a bunch of time. No, it's great. No such thing. And then the next one is, here they call it reason to believe. So that means valid authority, right? So if you could prove to yourself, for example, that Dalai Lama wouldn't lie about reincarnation, and you can accept what the Dalai Lama says about reincarnation. But you have to do, like you say, you have to do the work. You can't just say, oh, he seems like a nice guy, I'll trust him. You can't do that. You say, look, no, the Dalai Lama, and that's what Course 4 is also about. Prove that the Buddha is a person of valid perception. So if you can prove that the Buddha knows things, the Dalai Lama knows things, if you can prove that logically, then you can accept those people, what they say is true. As long as you can't think of a reason why they wouldn't be telling the truth. Like, for example, they're being skillful or something like that. Okay. Deduction is the one we've been doing this whole time. That's using syllogisms. And then convention is really interesting. Tibetans think there's a bunny rabbit in the moon. Did everybody know that?
With antlers?
No, normal bunny. Real bunny. I remember the first time, again, I try to remove certain things to make this whole thing more palatable, so that people can accept it easier. So I tend to not use Tibetan examples because they're so bizarre sometimes. Like, there's this one, they talk about meditation and they say it's like removing hair from butter. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
They used to use it all the time when I was at Namgyal. It's like pulling hair from butter. And I'm like, what does that mean? I have no clue what the hell they're talking about. But if you're a Tibetan and you make Tibetan tea every day, and what goes in Tibetan tea? Butter, right? They dump butter in it, and salt. Right?
They're always dealing with
Yeah. What's that?
They always deal with butter.
Yeah, and their whole life is centered around yak butter. Because when you live in Tibet, the only thing you can eat is barley and things that come from yaks. That's all there is. You can't grow oranges in Tibet. So the only thing they eat up there is barley and yak products. Either, directly eating the yak or something that comes from a yak. So what comes from a yak? Butter. So, milk and butter. So pretty much their whole experience has to do with pots, yaks, and barley. You can distill it down to those three things. So they used to always give me this example. It's like pulling hair from butter. And I'm just like, yeah, no. I still don't actually know what it means. I think what I got from them is it has something about when you pull hair with butter, there's no butter left on the hair. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, that's what they say.
What?
So yeah, what? So I tend to not use.
I'm sorry, you feel pure here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry to mess.
Yeah, you can pull it out and nothing is left on it. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to say.
Oh, because of the hair oil that rejects the butter.
Yeah. I think.
I feel like my hair.
But I need to test. I've never tested it.
Butter was
It's
right.
Tibetan's hair, it's also
That's a test.
supposed to be.
Um,
Our hair is dry, would absorb it.
Okay, yeah. So they also a very common Tibetan example. When a Tibetan looks at the moon, they see the face of a bunny rabbit. I don't know. I've never seen it. But every Tibetan, when they look at the moon, they see a bunny rabbit somehow. So, how do you know that there's a bunny rabbit in the moon? Everybody says there's one. If everybody agrees there's a bunny rabbit in the moon, then there's a bunny rabbit in the moon.
Is convention then not a subset of the third one, the valid authority? Like, since it's convention, everybody is saying it. Everybody is the valid authority.
Well, no, it's different because you're like I said here. When this one requires that you prove, this person is true. It's reasoned. This one's more like, okay, we're just gonna all
that's
agree.
like inactive and active of the same sort of.
Inactive and active.
So like reasonable.
Well,
is active.
see, what you would do is you would use this in a proof. So let's write out a syllogism. This one work? Yeah. Consider the bunny and the moon. It exists because, am I going to do this one?
Because everybody knows that it exists.
Yeah, because all Tibetans see the bunny and the moon. Okay, let's test it, see if it works. I don't really know. Okay, so the relationship between the bunny and the moon and the bunny and the moon the Tibetans all see?
Yes.
Yes. Is there a connection between, or must it be the case that because all Tibetans see a bunny and the moon exists?
Yeah.
It's a little shaky. We we can improve it though. We can say for them, or for Tibetans. Must that be true?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So that's what they're getting at with this one. Why? Okay, what's the name of this object?
Hamper.
No, it's not. It's Nugu.
So
working thing.
Did you catch where I'm going?
Yeah.
Right? We just all agreed to call this a pen. And that's the only reason why this is called a pen.
this is how language and calendars work?
Yeah.
Convention?
Yeah, language is like
And
convention
time,
stuff.
too.
Yeah. Who was it? Somebody said yesterday. It was you, right? We were talking about 100%. They just because they easily build it on 120 or 160, they just chose 100 because
No,
it's
that's
easily
not
divisible.
true. We
You
have
know?
10 fingers. There's a reason for the decimals.
That doesn't.
It's still our.
We could have picked 12.
We don't
It's
have
okay.
100 fingers.
There's a metric system and there's a what's the other one?
We could have picked
Inches.
20
Binary.
or 5.
You know, we could pick anything we want. It doesn't. You know. I
But
mean, you could say it's based off 10
It's
fingers,
less than
but
arbitrary though, that's all I'm saying.
yeah, sure. But at any point we could decide to switch if we
Seems
wanted
like it
to. If
also-
we all agreed, right, we could just switch it to something else.
Like the situation with someone who's colorblind, like they can't see the color green, for example, and we know they can't see it because we all can.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be a similarity? So like if the Tibetans see it, do you see it only works for them? I don't see it, therefore to me it doesn't exist.
Oh.
If I'm the only one in Tibet, you know, who doesn't see this.
Well, you reminded me of a thing that I skipped. When we basically, I forgot to include our chart. So we split up. Oh, we didn't. Well, let's do that now. Okay. This is not the end of the chart. If we wanted to continue in the monastery, they keep going. What do you divide physical things into? I think I said already. Anybody remember? What does the eyeball see?
The shape and light.
Yeah, shape and color. So they say you can divide physical things into shape and color. Alright, then mental things, what do you divide that into? Sometimes they say mind and mental functions, and we're going to talk about that next weekend, I think. But here we're going to say they divide it into valid perceptions and invalid perceptions. Okay, what's an example of valid perception? Yeah, that's a bag. You know, this is green. Produce things are changing things. So anything which can be established. So it can be established from any of the ones we said, right? Yeah. I keep turning my board around. I'm getting tired. Okay. What do we say are the 3 kinds of valid perception?
Sorry, 3 kind of what?
3 kinds of valid perception.
Direct, indirect, and authority.
Yeah, so anything that we can prove directly or indirectly or through authority, that thing exists, right? So that could be, if you accept the Dalai Lama's Stone of Truth. The Dalai Lama says there's reincarnation, that's a valid perception. This is green is a valid perception, and all produced things are changing things, also valid perception. And we say all the same ontological status. What's an invalid perception? Give me an example.
Santa Claus? Like believing Santa Claus? Or is that the authority? Is that valid?
Yeah, that's too philosophical. Let's go with an easier one.
So I won't talk about Elvis either. So that pen is purple.
Yeah. What kicked it off in my mind was her question. Tibetans, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday too. Tibetans say when you get Tibetans say when you get jaundice, it colors your vision. And I think this is true. I'm not totally sure if anybody knows. Please correct me. That when you get jaundice, your vision takes on this like yellowish haze or something. So if you have jaundice, and they're also big on mountains. You know, Tibetans are surrounded by mountains. So when you look at a mountain, the snow is kind of like, it can be like a whitish blue color, you know, because light bouncing off it and whatnot. So if you have jaundice, they say you look up and you see the top of the mountain and it looks kind of yellow. And then they say that's an invalid perception because the person's sick. So because they're sick, they're seeing something that doesn't really exist. You know?
So like schizophrenia or something?
So schizophrenia would be a good example. If you're really drunk or high and you see something, then that would be an invalid perception.
Or if you're like a jealous girlfriend, you were flirting with her, I saw it.
Awesome, absolutely. If you're in the middle of like a strong mental affliction attack, you see things that don't exist, that's like a really great example. You like make up stuff.
So what do we do with the bunny moon? Because I don't see a bunny moon.
Well,
Valid or invalid?
that's another really great question because that's where I'm going next. What did we talk about yesterday, Josh? Is that if I'm tripping on LSD and I see a hair come out.
About that.
Hey, leave me out of that man. I'm tripping on LSD, and I see a hand come out of the wall and like grab at me, right? And I scream like a little girl.
Well, we were talking about the white wall, and if you shone a
Yeah, I know, but this one's more fun. Go with me. This one's more fun. And the hand comes out of the wall, and I scream like a little girl. Does the hand that comes out of the wall, does it exist or not exist?
For that person,
Why?
at that moment.
Yeah.
It's valid for you.
It functions.
It functions.
Yeah, it functions.
It functions. I scream. Right? If it does something, it exists. Right? So you have to say, even if I'm high out of my mind, in some way you have to say that hand exists. Because if it didn't, I wouldn't have screamed. Right? The thing's functioning. So it has to have some existence.
So does it exist for you because you're doing that stuff, and it doesn't exist for me because I didn't see it?
That's it exactly. Right? So
Can you repeat it?
yeah. So at some point, what we have to do, we did it already, right? We did it once today already.
Do I have that part?
Yeah, we added it here, right? What did I add on our bunny syllogism to make it true?
For them.
For them.
Yeah. In Tibetan, it's sula. It's very important if you want to debate with Tibetans. Does anyone know what su means? That's Sanskrit. Yeah, su in Sanskrit is good. In Tibetan, it means who. So, sula means for whom. For who? For whom? For who? Right? Sula. Who are you talking about? Does the bunny and the moon exist? Who are you talking about? Tibetans? Yes. Me? No.
What happens if Bunny and the Moon turns into everybody with orange socks last weekend? Like, it exists for them. Like, is it a true
That
thing?
happens all the time.
It does,
Like,
right?
stop and frisk, man. That's
Whole pot.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It exists.
So let's do it. I don't know. I've never done that one before. Consider what would we say? Consider
Orange socks.
the need to kill people with orange socks. The need to kill orange socks. Or, you know, for Pol Pot, right? The need to kill people that wear glasses or something, you know, the need to kill intellectuals. Consider the need to kill people with orange socks. Not gonna work. Consider the need to kill people with orange socks. It's true. I must do it.
It's true for them.
I must kill them. Yeah, I don't know where this is going.
Erase this when you're done.
because they're what did Pol Pot think? They're poisoning my society.
I mean, this is basically the Hitler, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is a scary idea, right? But we could say, consider Jews, I gotta kill them because they're poisoning my society, right? Okay. So is it true or false? I don't know, let's check. What's number one?
Orange socks are poisoning society and
Yeah.
orange socks.
Is that true?
It is based on perception. So
Yeah.
Hitler
In
is very
that
true.
context, it is, right?
You know,
Yeah, because
too.
the convention might make
Yeah,
that.
you could say.
Oh, yeah, you know, and that's great that you guys bring that up, because I think I want to fight that a little bit.
Kill people with orange socks.
I feel like I want to fight that a little bit. You know, we do say sometimes, I mean, I say all the time, actually, convention is not a proof. Well, this is a great example. Just because other people think we should kill people with orange socks doesn't make it true. You know, I can see I consider the need to kill people with orange socks. I must kill them
But then what about the point of valid perception?
because they are, hang on, because they are poisoning my society for me.
Yeah, but consider my society the need to kill them.
Well, talking about group, you would want to, like, the must kill is really heavy. So you
Well, that's not Talking Group, right? Talking Group is there's a problem with 1 and 3. So I don't see a problem with 1 and 3. The need to kill people with orange socks because they're poisoning the society for me. There's a relationship, right? They refer to people with orange socks.
Okay.
It is true that, well, no, you see, you could still argue that.
Couldn't you say?
They are poisoning my society for me. Is that true?
Not necessarily. Couldn't you
I mean,
say?
that's just your opinion.
Right, but
Yeah.
It's not a fact.
Couldn't you say consider in my
society, then there is a need to kill people with orange socks and put it up there in number 1 to make it true, or to make it relate.
No, so the 3
Well,
would
it's
still be.
not about, they do relate, they totally relate, right? They refers
Yeah.
to people with orange socks, so that's okay. But what I'm arguing is this isn't true. See, if this is not true, then there's no relationship. Right?
It has to be true to have a relationship.
Yeah, we said that a bunch of times,
Yeah.
remember?
I thought it made it true for.
So I would, if I wanted to, argue
Consider
this
my
is-
society, it is poison
Yeah,
because
that's-
there are people with orange socks there.
yeah, same thing, I would argue that.
For me.
You'd have to, I'd say, you gotta prove this to me.
Well, but 3 is true in mine.
Well, again, like I said, you might think it's true, that doesn't make it true. See, this is an opinion. They are poisoning my society for me, that's just an opinion, that's not a fact.
Can't we then make, we just, can't
Well,
we then
I
break it
changed it,
down?
I
and
said
then-
2 is that they're poisoning it.
Right.
Consider
Okay, all
my
right.
society, it is poison because there are people with orange socks there,
All right.
living there.
I think it's gonna be the same.
Still,
Yeah,
but I think
let's
if you
check.
take 3 and make it 1, you'd have to take a step back.
You take 3 and make it 2.
Consider my society what?
It is poison.
It is poison
It's poison because there are people with orange socks
because
living there.
that's ridiculous. People with orange socks. I
Or
can't spell
whatever,
orange.
because there's
Orange socks.
scholars.
Yeah, because scholars are bad. So okay, test number 1. Are there people with orange socks in my society? Yeah, probably. Is it the case that if there are people with orange socks in my society, it must be poisoned? No.
So how far back for valid perception do we go? Because didn't we just say that any given thing can be proven? If, for example, it's indirectly validated through, deduction convention or reason belief. And if reason belief is someone we trust, so clearly, hypothetically, the Buddha or the Dalai Lama says everyone with orange socks is going to fall. You don't want to surround yourself with these people.
Well, I mean, I would obviously argue that nobody that's going to be, no one of valid perception would ever say a thing like that. I mean, that would almost be a proof itself that they're not a person of valid perception.
Right.
I mean, I almost feel like if we flipped this to something positive, we wouldn't so much want to reject it for
Sure.
what
So
it is.
yeah, give me an example.
So,
Prejudice against killing people with orange socks.
so,
What's wrong with us?
consider green-eyed people, their magic. So something like that.
Oh, yeah, you should love them or something. Consider green-eyed people their magic because.
Yeah, give them presents because they're magic. Something.
Okay. Consider green-eyed people, give them presents.
What color are you wearing?
Hazel.
because they're magic. Dr. Group. I don't see any connection between them being magic and green eyes. Yeah, I don't think there's any relationship there. You'd have to prove to me that green-eyed people are magic.
Okay. So it is in the construction, not just our.
Keep playing with it.
But it's not just our
Keep playing with
rejection of.
Yeah, no, I
It's
see what
it
you're
is
trying
the
to check,
construction.
and it's good to check it, yeah. And I didn't know, I don't know, I never done that proof before, just write it out and look at it.
Well, another breakdown could be, all right, so we had the whole thing with the orange socks and the killing. Then you can just break it down into, consider killing. Assertion, it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay because.
People are bad.
Yeah, and it's gonna fail.
So what does that do to your statement that it's valid for that person, even if they're under some sort of
sula.
spell or sickness or illness?
Sula.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting. Yeah, that's where we wanted to go. Well, that's what I was trying to get to.
The hand.
The hand, right? Oh no, you're going the other way.
Oh.
I mean, I thought the whole point was that it wasn't valid because of.
Yeah, no, I was arguing that it is. And the other example we use, which I was talking about with Josh yesterday, is the classic example is when you see a coiled up rope or hose or something, and you jump back because you think it's a snake. So the question is, in the moment that you jump back, what is it?
A snake.
Snake.
right? You should probably say it's a snake because you wouldn't jump away from a hose. So again, see, it's a working thing. It's doing something.
And you
Right.
had the karma to experience a snake in that moment, so therefore it was a snake.
Yeah.
But that's differentiated from someone who's under an illusion or a sickness or something, and they.
Well, the truth is, we're all under an illusion, and maybe that's a good place to stop. The fact is, we're all under an illusion. Yeah, so when Geshe Michael talks about these, we said the two types. These are the two types of what? Valid perception, right? There's another way of looking at this, and when Geshe Michael uses the same word, but he'll translate it differently. And then instead of saying valid, he'll say correct. And then when he says correct perception, then he'll say, you've never had one. In your whole life, you've never had a correct perception. And then what would that mean? What do you think?
They're all invalid perceptions.
Every single perception I've ever had is false because I believe in what? Inherent existence. Yeah. When I look at the pen, what does it look like to me?
Existence.
I'm a pen. I'm a pen. Right? I'm a pen. And that's false. Right? It doesn't exist that way. So until I have an experience where I see that the pen is actually coming this way, every perception that I've ever had was false.
Which means when you see the coil of rope and you see a snake, and then in the next second you say, oh, it was just a rope, it wasn't a snake, which means that's as valid as invalid. Basically, the perception of the rope is as invalid as the perception of the snake.
Yeah.
So therefore, the snake was as real as the rope.
Sure. Yeah.
Which means
Which means
no, which basically is saying that the dream is the same as the waking life. They are all.
Well, yes. So again, so we go back to the high or sick or whatever. See, they don't matter because your high perception of an arm reaching through the wall or your jaundiced perception of a yellow mountain, it's just as real as any other perception you've ever had because they're all false. Every perception you've ever had is wrong. So why grab onto one or the other? They're all crazy.
But you still need good and bad, right? You still need right and wrong.
Of course.
I think that's what I'm trying to get at with the bunny and the moon. Like, if you change bunny and the moon to like evil people in orange socks, they exist because all Tibetans see them. So does that logic is there a danger of that logic being something as lovely as the bunny and the moon? I don't know.
Well, to be honest, like I said, I'm not sure I actually accept this. I'm not sure I actually accept this one at all. I tell people all the time convention is not approved. I mean, it's okay. I mean, obviously we do all agree this thing's called a pen, so that we can call it a pen, and that's fine. But if let's see, let's write it out. Let's see if it works.
But you got us out of it by the correct versus valid.
Yeah.
Convention is like, it's convenient. It's a suspension of disbelief so that we can communicate with each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's not actually true. You know?
But it's true for us because we've decided to establish.
But once you say that all these are, we've never had a correct perception.
If I did consider a pen, it is a pen because we agree it's a pen. True or false?
Apply the 3 tests.
Apply the 3 tests. What's test number 1?
Related.
Yeah, so what is it here?
Pen is related to argument.
We agree it's a pen.
If everyone in this room agrees this is a pen, then it passes test number 1, right? Pen. As long as this is true, we all agree it's a pen, and it's true. So then pass test number 1. What's test number 2?
It must be a pen.
If we agree it's a pen, it must be a pen. Is that true? That's problematic.
Well, somebody else who wasn't part of we.
Yeah, if we all decide this is this is something crazy. Like if we're all in a nut house together and we all agree this is Swahili, or I don't know, let's think of something crazy. We all agree this is a banana. you know, I'm going to eat it because it's a banana. So we all agree this is a banana. Is that going to make it a banana?
Yeah, it's a banana, but we don't have to eat it.
Well, define banana.
What if you change
That's
your
a
perception
banana.
of banana?
We just
If you change
decided.
your own definition of what a banana was.
Yeah, sure. So let's
We just
all
decided that's a banana.
well, let's all accept the definition for banana is something that I can eat that has potassium. All right. So if that's our definition of banana, and we all decide this is a banana, does that make it a banana? No.
No, but we haven't decided.
But if we decided to
So then when you, okay, so you, therefore, that the rope and the snake basically are boiling down to the same status and security or stability, right? Then I mean you have to talk about karma, right? Then you have to talk about karma.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna break it down.
Yeah. See, this is not true. Because we don't make something by agreeing to something is something. Ultimately, that's not true. Like, you know, the example Geshe Michael always uses is, okay, everybody close your eyes. Imagine this is a diamond. Right? Think really hard, focus, concentrate. This thing is a diamond. Right? And you open your eye and you look, and it's not a diamond. Right? Why not? Why not?
We don't have the seed.
Because I know the seed is a diamond. Right? I'm not in control of reality that way. I can't decide to make something happen. The only way I can make something happen is if I plant the seed.
Right, so you're proving the potential of how much we can make something happen by showing the lack of authority in the perception itself, and that the perception is based on how we've treated other people. So therefore,
Well, those imply each other. Yeah. If I can't make this into a diamond because my karma is forcing me to see this as a pen, then what does that imply? If I had the karma to see this as a diamond, it could be a diamond, right? Sometimes I joke, like I look and I'm like, one of these days that's gonna work. You know, if I plant enough good seeds, one day I'm gonna pop that eyeball open and damn, we're going to the
and that's what makes
party on Nyingpo.
And that's what that is what makes it a diamond.
Yeah.
That is all that ever made it a diamond.
Right.
So therefore, yeah.
Hang on, what if he does that and he thinks it's a diamond? I'm like, no man.
That's all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't have seeds and
Yeah. Well, then you're not going to buy my diamond, obviously.
Where's the book?
Maybe you shouldn't be concentrating on you seeing the diamond. You should be concentrating on
You guys see the diamond. Yeah, good.
Practice that.
Doesn't matter what I see it as.
Yeah.
I need you to buy
Especially
it.
when you're selling it. That's advertising right there, actually, in a nutshell.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're trying to convince people. Okay. Good. Yeah, okay. So, this is, like I said, this is really important because, I mean, what we are basically discussing is what is reality? I mean, if I have to boil this all down, then what we're talking about now is what is real. What is reality? Where does reality come from? So then again, if it's true, all the stuff we're talking about, things are empty, so what is real is coming from how we treat other people, then that's always where you should come to. Like, for example, if you ever do a meditation on emptiness, and it kind of freaks you out a little bit, like there's this famous story that one time the Dalai Lama was explaining emptiness, and he looked out in the audience and he saw this guy like going like this, because he was afraid like that he was going to disappear, you know? So if you ever get freaked out by a meditation on emptiness, where it's supposed to lead you, where you're supposed to go, is it should always lead you back to being a more compassionate person. And if ever logic or thinking about emptiness or meditating about emptiness doesn't lead you back to, okay, I need to be nicer to people, then that's a sign you've got off track somewhere. Because our goal is always, well, if everything's coming from us, the most important thing is that I take care of other people so that I see a world where people are all doing that. Geshe Michael likes to explain bodhicitta nowadays. I think it's really great. He says, imagine what the world would look like if everybody believed this. If everybody thought, okay, to get what I want, I have to take care of other people. If everybody on this planet thought that way, then what would the world start to look like? Yeah. So we can take all the seeds that we planted, 65 per finger snap. You've been here for 4 hours. So somebody do the math quick. That's a lot of seeds, that's all I know. So you planted a lot of seeds towards creating a world that could look like that. So then, again, if we believe, if any of this is true, then try and think in your heart that you did that. You planted a lot of seeds today, a lot of very powerful seeds, to see a world that could start to become something much better. So, thank you.
Thank you. Please keep teaching us.
What's next?
Yeah, then I teach a yoga class. If anybody wants to come, I guess we decided it's at 10 next Saturday. Yeah, and then same deal next weekend. So 12 to 2, 3 to 5, Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully the book will be here next weekend. So if you want to pick up the book, we'll have the book.
Cool.
So you'll get 10 a.m. next Saturday.
Yeah.
Technically, do we kind of go through logic, class 1 through 5 next week, or do we go through class?
Yeah, I need to cover a few more things in class 5, but you've covered, if you wanted to do the homework, we've covered everything from 1 through 4 and partly into 5.
You keep referring to this mythological homework. What is this?
If I may. Yeah, sure, sorry. So, yes, you know Geshe Michael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Geshe Michael taught in New York City for 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
And he taught the 15 ACI courses.
Right.
So basically I'm covering information in ACI course 13. So Ted can give you the address if you go to, you can download it.
ACI-dharma.org.
It's easier at the knowledge base.
Knowledge base.
Knowledge base, sorry, yeah.
And you can,
Knowledgebase.com.
yeah, then you can download all the readings and the homeworks and the answer keys and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry if that's too much.
No, sure. And it's all free and it's all up for anybody to use. And
By the way, we're going to have a very good teacher for ACI 15 in the next course.
Oh, when's that start?
Knowledgebase.
Eva, I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Oh,
So yeah, so look out on the website. Eva's 15.
TheKnowledgeBase.com.
What you getting, Bert?
Or to
You and Bert?
The knowledge, is there a interpreter?
72.
The knowledge.
Yeah.
Aquarius.
Oh,
Yeah, oops.
And everybody thank Tad, because he's helping us so much.
I get all the karma. Yay. You can all
Thank
have
you,
it.
that was
You can all have it.
Thanks for doing it.
It's.com.
Especially when you said.
No, it's just.
And to Mr. Reckland, sign up.
It's good, right? I did it in the thing that time out one time.
There it is. It is. Knowledge base.
You said this before, then someone called.
Then you go to, yeah, it's good stuff. Go to Brown.
There's also a chance that you might be on
That is
there,
Mira.
like the actual.
Go to Buddhism, and then in here,
They say if you have that past life, that single yoga.
it's great.
That's wonderful.
And then if you want to do a
Like,
class like that, whatever you can do.
like pop in 16.
But you were saying,
But generally,
as a definitive thing.
you don't know. It's
Yeah.
possible. I think, why not?
Yeah.
Why not think that maybe I have already seen it before and I just need to
Okay.
remember. It makes it seem like that's